are also changing, so we're seeing more roles around technological advances. We're seeing more people applying for jobs around coding. We want more from our cars from just getting from A to B. If you think about the infotainment systems and you think about the amount of code that's written into our cars on a daily basis, those are the types of jobs that we need for our future. So our apprentice and graduate induction is incredibly important to us. It's about making sure that we've got talent pipelines that will support the business and hopefully have future success. I'm sure you will have seen in the media just how challenging it is at the moment for us, but we had some good Q2 results, which is really positive. So just moving into how many people actually apply for our programme. We had 33,000 people apply across our apprentices and graduate programmes. We actually had 580 successful applicants that we brought into our induction event. And just to break that down a little bit further for you, we had 375 graduates and we offered 205 apprenticeship programmes. We've got a number of apprenticeship programmes ranging from 2 years right through to 5 years, where we will actually sponsor people to do a 5-year graduate degree. What's also a real challenge for us in the automotive industry is to attract women into engineering. So many of you have probably heard about initiatives around STEM, encouraging that within schools. We've also got a couple of initiatives that we specifically offer for women. So we've got Women in Engineering, where we offer a female mentor once they get inside the business. And again, they get to meet their mentor on our induction programme. And a new initiative which is around Furthering Futures, again attracting more females into the engineering business. So we've only got around 20% of females on programme at the moment. I'm fortunate that I work in the HR team and the ratio is very different in there, and we've got 80% of women in HR, but the wider business is something that we're really working on. We had 28 different nationalities across our induction programme. We're incredibly diverse employer. We really value the breadth in diversity and what differences actually help us do. It helps give us a competitive edge. We are maturing in our business. We're still relatively immature when we compare ourselves against Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, BMW, and this is where we need to grow. So we like to embrace innovation, we like to encourage creativity. It supports our business as we move forward, and like I said, in those technological advances, it's absolutely critical. When we inducted the apprentices and graduates, they are going to be spread across the whole business. So they work in a number of different functions. We've also started to expand into technology, and we've got a number of technology hubs that we've opened, one over in Shannon in Ireland and another one in Hungary. The largest population that we induct is around engineering and manufacturing, but we do have some smaller numbers that are in the corporate functions, but they'll go to do a variety of roles and a number of different disciplines across the business. I'm really pleased to say that we have a retention rate of around 70% for our early careers talent that comes through. It's really important to try and keep these people once we've made the investment in them. And if you think about the investment that we would make in an apprentice that stays with us for 5 years and sponsoring their degree programme, it really is a significant cost. We've introduced a new digital and technology solutions degree apprenticeship, and this is to recognise the future needs of the business. So this is advertised now for 2020, so any of you out there that have got family, friends that are interested in digital degree apprenticeships, those are on our careers website, so please encourage them to go there. I'm going to hand over to Ewan, he's going to tell you a little bit more about the event specifically.
Thanks, Rachel. So as we've seen, the Graduate and Apprentice programme is incredibly important to JLR, and the 5-day event, which is held at the Ricoh Arena in Coventry every September, is the pinnacle of this programme. So the event lasts 5 days, and it's comprised of around 87 sessions in total. So the programme's designed to give everyone a comprehensive induction into Jaguar Land Rover's culture, their history, their heritage. There's also a chance for everyone to get hands-on with the iconic vehicles that they produce. The group also gets the chance to visit nearby production plants, as well as the British Motor Museum. We get outside inspiration at the events. From this year was a transatlantic rower, and there's also a wellness area, which is very important for this demographic, as you'd imagine, where we have very informal seating, some projections, and some soothing music to get everyone away from the stress of the first week on a new job. The event is also the first point of contact in a lot of instances for people meeting their managers for the first time, which, as you can imagine, can be a very stressful experience. And this year there was 289 managers there to welcome their new recruits. We managed 100% app adoption at this event. As you'll appreciate, this audience is very tech savvy anyway, but there's also a few little things we do just to make sure that when people's phones run out of batteries, there is iPod touches with the app preloaded to ensure that everyone gets the same experience, which we find is very, very important. And the programme is rated highly generally by the attendees, and it's also been recognised with several industry awards, CNIT awards, and more recently the UK Employee Experience Awards. I think Rachel's now just going to tell you about how we create a blended experience for the attendees.
So what I would say is that we've learned over the last 3 years how to evolve this event. We've taken on employee feedback. We've looked at how to make informed decisions about how we build the event over the 5 days. It's really important to have a blend. We've found that the attention spans and the retention rate for learning is not effective if it's too long. So every 20 to 30 minutes, you need to be thinking about moving on to the next topic. And you need to mix it up so you've got multifaceted items within there. So are we doing some video? Are we doing an experience? But we need to design that and make sure we've got the opportunity to keep them moving around, keep the engagement high, keep the energy high, and make sure it's informative, but it's also fun. Some of our audience is 16 to 18, and then some of our older apprentices may be kind of 25. So we've got an age range between 16 and 25. We adopt the learning strategy methodology around 70-20-10. So 70% of training that we may try to do is on-the-job training. So this was around experiences throughout the event. 20% was around coaching and mentoring, and 10% more of those traditional plenary sessions and classroom. We tried to reduce the amount of plenary sessions. These people do not like sitting down, listening to lots of presentations, so it is very much about picking the highlights, thinking about what the learning objectives are, and making sure that you just really concentrate on that. Too much content, they'll just switch off, basically. Like I said, this hasn't happened overnight. This is something that we've had to work with Spark on this over the last 3 years, and had numerous feedback and decisions to make along the way so that we create a real blending experience. It's important to match the session content and your desired outcomes and think about what that format might be. For example, we introduced a timeline which was to develop their knowledge and their skills around what's the heritage and the history of our business. So we used an interactive timeline with lots of multimedia content. We put them into teams. We gave them iPads to use as part of this, and we created some quizzes and some challenges within this session. We also brought it to life with some roving presenters, and we also had an array of historical video content. We also injected a little bit of fun into there as well. So I had someone in my team that had been here for 41 years, and it was go and get a selfie with Nick, and it just created a bit of fun as well to put that in there. I'm just going to hand back over to Ewan.
So, as I mentioned, designing and developing a really comprehensive communications plan is really key for this event to engage the audience. So we actually prefer to think of them as an online community rather than an event app users. So we engage the audience long before the event starts. So this year, in the 10 weeks leading up to the event, we picked a different topic that's pertinent to Jaguar Land Rover and drip-fed content for that week around the theme. We also try and link back to the product and the service as often as possible, so these people are ready to start their new jobs when they get on site. And with lots of people also moving to a new area to be near their place of work, it's also important that we instill those community values and create a sense of belonging long before the event even starts. In terms of the event itself, on site we really try and create lots of shareable moments. and we encourage all attendees to join in the conversation. We stimulate interactions as much as possible. We do find that this demographic can be quite shy at first, believe it or not, but once they do start talking, it's very hard to get them to stop. Post-event, we carry on the conversations, maintaining a strong peer-to-peer support network, and then the online community slowly transitions into Jaguar Land Rover's learning and development programme. And Rachel's just going to tell you now how we gamify the content.
So gamification is a really great way to motivate and engage your audience. What I would say is you need to think about the way in which you're going to use gamification. It can be a bit of a buzzword in the learning and development world. So you've got to think about what do we want to use it for, and actually what's the purpose and what does it build up to. We decided that we wanted to gamify the event. So we used the app before the event. There's a lot of dry content that we can cover off using the app, but it's a really great way of making sure that they've read it. They'll get points for reading some of that dry content. We then carry that on through the event, through the week. As they attend the sessions, they'll get more points for that. They'll get points for answering Q&As. They'll get points for submitting questions. And we build that up as the week goes on. The gamification acts as a golden thread all the way through. And I would say one of the big challenges is always around what's the prize going to be at the end. So that's something to think about before you set out to do this. Gamification helps reinforce people's learning. It means that we get to see that they've engaged with learning in a fun way, but it's also important that they learn about the right behaviours. We put some of the mandatory content on there as well with a disclaimer, so we could actually check that they had done that prior to their first day. Again, it was a really quick way of satisfying the compliance team that we've ticked all the boxes. Our gamification strategy saw us increase the numbers of speaker questions, so 2,811, which in turn created a more resonant and more personalised session. I think what I would say as well with the gamification is that initially it was really hard to engage the senior management team around the use of gamification and technology. So Jaguar Land Rover is a very traditional company. There was a lot of nervousness from senior managers around this. So it's a little bit about starting off small, developing something, and then starting to grow it and build the confidence of the senior management. So we started to see senior presenters get engaged with the live polls and the questions, and then we use word clouds, and slowly that confidence has grown. But immediately when we first said we want to use this, they were very reluctant to do so. So one of the other great things was Ewan talked about creating a community. It's really important that they start to build their support network. Once they get into the business, there's 38,000 employees. So it's really important that they understand who are the people around them that they'll be able to pull on in the future. So the conversations that they were having and the business cards that they were exchanging actually might be some of the people that will help them further on in their career. So here you've got the total app interactions, and our gamification strategy kept them returning back to the app, which was really important because this is where we decided to invest. We invested in the app and the technology, and it was instrumental in increasing the engagement year on year. So for next year, the hope is that we will break 1 million interactions. I think that is achievable, and we see that they are highly engaged with this, and it seems to just grow year on year.
Thanks, Rachel. So now I was just going to cover off really how we use video to engage, educate and entertain. So talking of interactivity, I'd like you to participate in a quick poll, if you wouldn't mind. So based on the latest research, what do you think is the average attention span of a teenager? And you should be able to fill this in via the app. So 3 of you voted, right? Oh, there we go. That's 4. Well, 40% of you have got it correct. So attention spans are shrinking. And the average teen has the attention span of around 28 seconds, according to latest research. So they're so accustomed to stimuli, constant stimuli from apps, from streaming services on their phones, that they seemingly find it really difficult to concentrate or read complex and long documents. So with this in mind, although this group isn't exactly atypical in that they are software engineers and very, very bright people, we decided to make a conscientious effort to disseminate content at the event via video. So as well as uploading professional videos throughout the day, we also crowdsourced a lot of content and challenged attendees to upload videos, how they're feeling today, what are they excited about, and the like. So also as part of our video strategy, we ran a creative team building exercise. Small groups were given a random household object, such as a rubber glove or a tennis ball. And they had to imagine a new use and create a new product out of this object. And then they were asked to film a 30-second advert on their phones, which were uploaded to the social feed, with everybody voting for their favourite video. And hopefully now I have a quick video to show you actually some highlights of the event.
We've had a fantastic few days here at the Ricoh Arena for Apprentice and Graduate Induction 2019. It's been great to see so much energy and enthusiasm in the room. You've chosen to learn more about our business, you've participated, you've chosen to understand, and more importantly, you're keen to understand the role that you have to play going forwards. So let's take a look at what we've been up to.
Okay, so that was just a quick highlight. What I would say is never underestimate your audience. So we were prepared for a certain amount of cheating. If you're going to employ a software engineer, be prepared for them to create an AI robot overnight that will jump from the bottom of the leaderboard to the top. So I walked in the following morning to find this, and then it gave me another challenge of how I'm going to deal with this. So a bit of advice would be around demonstrating what are the business behaviours that you want to install right from the beginning, and what are the rules around cheating, because what we did see was an incredibly talented and very creative individual actually cheat the system, which is the skills that we recruited them for and we want them for, but to demonstrate the right behaviours and do it in the right way. So never ever get caught out. Don't underestimate your audience.
So, and finally, just want to touch on the focus on CSR. Obviously, CSR is very important to every demographic, but particularly resonant with a youthful audience. So, JLR is very conscious of their impact on communities and the environment, and they encourage all employees to complete 16 hours voluntary work every year. So what better way to introduce this CSR focus at the event than through a team building exercise? So, as you can see from this screen, in groups of 60, each group was challenged to recreate a life-size side profile outline of the recently relaunched Land Rover Defender. The catch was this had to be done through items that the attendees themselves had brought in, which would be donated to a food bank. So this activity really resonated with the demographic, particularly so because we got the charity in to do a flash talk ahead of the exercise to create that additional emotional bond. As a result of this, the Trussell Trust received 386 kilos of food donations, which is equivalent to the weight of a horse. Additionally, the sustainability of the event footprint was also considered, and this year we used water butts, saving around 3,000 single-use plastic bottles. And now I'd just like to hand back to Rachel to give you a quick recap of what we've told you.
So thank you for listening, and in today's session we've told you around how to create a blended experience, how to create a comprehensive communications plan that focuses on social, how to gamify your content, use the use of video to engage, educate and entertain, never underestimate your audience, and the focus that you can have on CSR and the difference that you can make. And we'd like to thank you for listening to us today.
Thank you, Ewan and Rachel. We have some questions for you guys. We'll pull up the first one. Do you think these strategies could be employed for an older, perhaps less tech-savvy audience?
Certainly with other clients where we are maybe managing senior leaders meetings, we do find there is more of a pushback on the use of technology. I feel that's just a demographic thing. It's hard to get the buy-in, like Rachel said, with the senior leaders, just because technology isn't so natural to these people. But certainly you could use some elements of it. For example, gamification we find doesn't generally work with senior leadership.
So, which activity engaged this demographic most?
This is quite an interesting one because this, probably because of the topic, engaged them the most. So it was more of a plenary session, which was one of the very few that we ran. So we had a plenary session where we had a guest speaker from the business come in and talk around one of the products. And this was the one that struck a chord the most, but I think it's more to do with the fact that that's where they could see themselves. So the presenter said, where you're sat today was where I was 5 years ago. That was a very clever tactic by the presenter. The presenter was never actually a graduate, but he made them feel like you could be up here doing what I'm doing right now. So he'd really thought about, how do I engage this audience? But surprisingly, it was one of the more traditional sessions.
And lastly, how do you improve year on year?
Well, I mean, we constantly gather feedback from attendees. We constantly look to make small tweaks to the program as technology changes. We obviously always try to use the latest sort of engagement technology, but not for the sake of it. There always has to be a really valid reason to do that. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would say as well that this year was particularly challenging because we had a lot less budget to work with. So we had to be a lot more creative, and that's where we really lent on Spark to help us. How can we be more creative because we've got less money? And what I'm pleased to say is that this was probably the best event that we've ever done over the 3 years. So it just proves it's not always about what's the most expensive piece of technology. It's really about thinking about the design and thinking about how you're going to interact with the audience over the 5 days and really mixing it up and trying stuff and then getting the feedback and working with that feedback to inform your future design.
Next one is, do you think encouraging low attention span behaviors prepares them well for future careers at JLR?
I don't think it's about encouraging low attention span behaviours. I feel just that is for onboarding people in very, very quickly in a short period of time, then that is the best way to engage with this demographic. But certainly I wouldn't think it is the sort of thing you do in their day-to-day, no.
Great. Sounds like a great program. Thank you, Ewan and Rachel. Okay, thanks for coming, guys.